And we are live. Welcome everyone to another OSR tabletop with myself, DM Bloodworth, or GM Bloodworth, depending on the game that I am running at the moment. This is a subdivision of Unscripted and Unchained RPG review, and I am joined by Victor. Victor is the man behind DaveCon, a convention out in I want to say it's Minneapolis, right? So the outskirts of Minneapolis. And I'll let Dave talk about his convention first, introduce himself, and talk about the convention, and then we are going to get into Dave's response and the official DaveCon response to Wizards of the Coast, in particular with the comments made by Jason Tondro and just the whole the slander against the legendary creators of Dungeons and Dragons, those that have passed and still those that survive to this day. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Victor. Welcome, Victor, once again. This is, it's been a while, and, it would be best to have you on just to promote DaveCon, but we have this nonsense to deal with, and so I'll let you go off with your introduction. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Vic Dorso. I run DaveCon. It'll be in Bloomington, Minnesota, April 25th through the 27th next year here. We got guests like David Wesley, Dave McGarry, Greg Gillespie, all kinds of guests coming in for the convention. Even Bob, the world builder, is coming in, and it should be a good time. And, we celebrate all the Daves that made RPG great. All the designers and everything else. You don't have to be a Dave to come to DaveCon. It's just sort of all the Daves that made it great. They're just a preponderance of them coming from Minnesota. We're talking the original Blackmore crew and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're talking about here. But yeah. So what do you want to talk about first there, Bloodworth?
Well, let's deal with the the gorilla in the room, as they say, and so I'm sure many of the people watching that watch my channel on a regular basis and kind of follow along with what is going on with the old school and the OSR, sometimes indie gaming as well, and then that crossover into just in general Dungeons and Dragons and whatnot. You've probably all seen the big brouhaha over statements made by Jason Tondro, who is the lead or executive producer of Dungeons and Dragons now, and he made some tweets on. He made some tweets. I guess they're still called tweets on X, and basically said that. And this was in response to something that Elon Musk had typed as well, that he does not, he doesn't give any opinions of the old school, of grognards, as he labeled, any heed. He doesn't give our opinions any heed. Maybe he just doesn't hear us. Basically, is what he was trying to say, and that, of course, led to an even bigger push from the OSR and from many of the people in the OSR that are protective, I think, of the legacy of the game and the creators of the hobby, really, because these are people, and Victor will certainly speak to that as well. I mean, the some of the men that he had mentioned, and there are women too that are part of that. The old Blackmore group and everything. That there are many people that contributed to the creation of the hobby as we know it. And so I'll let Victor chime in there as well.
Well, I mean, the first things first. Let's just we wouldn't have the hobby we have without these gentlemen.
Hmm.
David Wesley, David Ernstson, Gary Gygax.
Hmm.
Why are we, or is WOTC disparaging their names? Why are they not acknowledging their names? You know what I mean? Why aren't they giving them credit where credit is due? There is all the games. Look at behind you, Bloodworth. I mean,
Hmm.
look at the shelves behind you. All of those stem from those three gentlemen, and they get zero respect. I mean, the new crop of game designers basically don't even give inside their books. I don't see the acknowledgments to these gentlemen. You know, it just, and this is why I came to the point that I said, okay, fine, WOTC, you've got your Adventure League. I was approached by somebody, and I'm not going to mention who, but they approached me, said, would you like to have Adventure League this year? Well, I was in the midst of deciding that. Well, they came out with statements like Jason Tundro, and he's a senior employee at WOTC. I'm done. That was an easy decision. It was a yes no decision. I just said no. I'm just not going to acknowledge it. And they can figure out how to properly acknowledge these gentlemen that have been around for, oh, I don't know, 50 years plus, that have developed this game that we all know and love. I mean, every game, Pathfinder and the rest of these games all came from the outshoot of Dungeons and Dragons. You
Right.
know, it was an easy decision, on my part. And my convention is about celebrating those guys and all the games that came from that.
Hmm.
I mean, it's I game weekly with David Wesley. I mean, he's on speed dial, so I'm just, you know, it's a slap in the face, as far as I'm concerned. You know,
Right, right, and we've seen others come out, like Robert Kuntz came out, like all blazing,
oh yeah,
with this, these attacks that even he sees they're continuous. Now, I made a video back when that book was first released, and went through and watched the interview of Jason Tondro and Todd Kendrick. I think that's his last name. I always mispronounce that.
you know what? I've
Um,
never heard of Tondro or Kendrick until this thing.
no, that's exactly. Well, I knew of Todd Kendrick because he was on the D&D YouTube channel for a
Right.
while before that. But Jason Tondro, I didn't know of his work when he was with Paizo. But he's another one of those, refugees from Paizo, and came over, and so his introduction to us was, talking about, the book, talking about the 50th anniversary, the history of Dungeons and Dragons, 1970 to 1970, or is it 74 to 79, or something? I would not own the book if it were handed to me for free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, but once again, the the need that they have, at Wizards of the Coast, and I don't separate it anymore because I know for a while people were trying to say, well, this is Hasbro and the creators at Wizards of the Coast don't necessarily buy into this, but they're silent about it, because they basically have to. No, they agree with it. All right, I'm not going to give them a free pass on this. I don't want to hear stories because I've been following it through Twitter and everything. Oh well, Jeremy Crawford, played with you know played with Gary Gygax or met with Gary Gygax on several occasions and talked to him and reveres him. No, no.
It's
Because if he
permeated the
revered him,
culture.
he would come out and say, "Hey, this is not the opinion of all of the people at Wizards of the Coast."
I,
But
I
they
think
don't
I
do
think
that.
bloody I think bloody we need to just admit it's permeated the culture at
Yes.
WOTC, and it's endemic over there. It
Yeah.
is, or it's a pandemic. One of the two,
Hmm.
whatever. It's just everybody over there. I feel is you know doesn't care. You know what I mean? I don't think they really care about anybody before fifth edition. Basically, I
Right.
mean, they I don't see them. I, I don't see them coming out and going, "Hey, it's the 50th anniversary of AD&D in 2027.
Hmm.
Let's make a master class book so that we take all the stuff from the erratas and the stuff from Gary made, and we'll put them all in 3 brand new books for AD&D." I don't see it happening. You know
No.
what I mean? But you know what? If they did it and they had editors, good editors that were like Rob Kuntz and some other guys, and they actually sat down and they did it, and they didn't have any what do you call it, sensitivity readers in it,
Right.
and they put it together, it would probably be a wonderful seller. It would probably sell better than these these brown books that they made. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, they it would probably sell better than those. You know, is what I'm saying. And
Yes. It probably would.
and I mean, the people have been clamoring it for decades now to fix all the errors in the player's handbook and the monster manual and all these books and re-put it all together and put it out there. And I don't think it would take a whole lot of work. I think you'd probably have about a 3 to 6 month project for a couple good editors, and they'd have a bang up product. But with them continuing to disparage Gary, David Wesley, and not acknowledging me also,
Yeah.
what customer base are they going to have? They're just driving out
Yeah.
the guys with money. I mean, bloody, you've got to admit this, and I admit it. Kids are out of the house. We got a little extra cash. We're out there buying stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
got money to go buy things.
Yeah. It's a and I know you know this is Wizard Tower Games. So I mean, he says they're pandering to what they see as their base, but that's not their base consumer. that's that's the thing. That's not their consumer base. That's not the consumer base of Dungeons and Dragons. Um, the consumer base of Dungeons and Dragons is very, very small. All right, it's potentially, and I mean, don't take my word for it. Take Cynthia Williams' word for it, right? I mean, she was basically saying the only people out there that are buying the books are possibly the dungeon masters. They're buying one they're buying one set of the core 3 books, and nothing else is actually selling. And once you have those books, you know uh, even though they don't have the longevity that TSR's hardcover books have, that literally they're falling apart after after a couple of years. But the point is that once they have these, you don't need anything else. I mean, it was a realization of hers that she could see that this isn't the kind of business model that she can fathom actually is a successful business model, because she's coming from the video game era. You know,
Right.
that's her area of expertise is video games, and all of the top people now that they have at Wizards of the Coast are all video people, video game people. And how to KO, I think is his name. He's like one of the top executives there, and that's his whole thing is how to monetize, microtransactions and those kinds of things. So they are simultaneously, I know somebody had criticized, actually Bob Worldbuilder said, how do you simultaneously erase and slander at the same time? You know what I'm saying? And the way that you do it is that you alternate it, right? You basically alternate. I'm either going to degrade you, or I'm going to ignore your contributions and your existence to this, and they just go back and forth and alternate that. So you can, in fact, do both. It's just not simultaneously. Let's see. Sad to say, I think the only way to save D&D is to let them burn it down and rebuild it. Well, there's a possibility of the quote unquote burn it down is, if someone like an Elon Musk came in and bought either the IP,
Well, here's the thing about Elon Musk, and I'm gonna say this, and people just can sit back and listen to this one. But if Elon bought 51% of Hasbro, he could force Hasbro to spin off WOTC. He can turn around, sell his Hasbro stock, have WOTC still owning 51%, and then he could rebuild that in his own name if he wanted to. He could totally go back around and change that and bring in some new blood and everything else. It's not a big deal. I mean, he's got the money. So Hasbro has an $8 billion market cap or something. He has to put out $4.5 billion, and he could make that change. And the community would be absolutely shocked. But then we'd also have, you'd also have everybody. You'd have the X Wars, or a Twitter Wars, as they call it, where they'd be like, I'm never going to buy a Dungeons and Dragons product ever again because Elon Musk bought it, and he's going to do this, and he's going to do that. And there's going to be all kinds of slander, as bad as the Trump Biden or Trump Kamala Harris election, and nobody will be happy about it. Unless Gary Gygax was still alive and Elon Musk could convince him to take over WOTC and remake it. You know what I mean? Then everybody would be at the on their knees going, Elon Musk is great. Elon Musk is great.
Yeah. No, I certainly don't think that he would have to buy all of Hasbro. Like you said, 51% gives him, the controlling interest. I don't think that, I doubt that he would probably buy the whole thing, or, or it just might have been, him talking off the cuff and nothing happens of it.
He doesn't even need to buy the 51%. If he had some of the majority stockholders already there, and then he just came in and bought 30%, and the other 21% is he's got their votes in this pocket.
Right.
He could force that WOTC spinoff, and WOTC stock would go through the roof, while Hasbro stock would go into the tank, and he would just get rid of his Hasbro stock after the spinoff. That's just what would happen, and that's how I would do it if I had the money that Elon Musk has.
Yeah,
that's how I would leverage it and do it, and just say, okay, this only cost me $3 billion to do this, but I'm going to make $6 or $7 billion over here on WOTC.
Yeah. The thing is when people are saying, oh, he would never cough it up, or it would only be, Hasbro would sell for like $30 billion. I was like, first of all, that's super overvaluing Hasbro, number one. Right. Number two, 2.5 weeks ago, Elon Musk made $30 billion in a day. All right, in one day. So this
is pocket change. If he really wanted to play with
it's literally pocket change for him, and it's nothing that it's nothing that he's going to be like, oh well, that's too expensive for me to buy.
Right. Well, and let's go back. Let's talk a little bit about let's talk about his buying of X. You know what? Everybody says X is worth X now. You know what I mean? They're giving this lowball price, and he says it's worth this. Well, guess what? It's a private company. He gets to put the price on it, whatever he wants to put the price on. You know what I mean? If
someone's willing to buy it, they will.
Right. And if somebody wants to come around and raise enough cash, and they say, oh, Elon, we'll give you $60 billion. Well, Elon might just say, hey, you can have it, but I
Right.
think he's more of it in for the long haul anyways, I
Yeah.
don't, and if he buys WOTC, he might be in it for the long haul. Maybe he
Yeah.
would do the first edition revamping for the 50th anniversary and the second, for second edition.
Right.
Maybe he might go through all that stuff and redo it all. You know what I mean? I mean, I might buy one set. I mean, but I've got 8 of everything, for players' handbooks and all that
Right.
other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I can basically find a page in no
Mhm.
time and those, and the new ones I'd be sitting there scratching my head trying to find stuff. So
So I want to get us back onto Adventure League because I have another connection to Adventure League that I wanted to bring up, and then I'll let you restate where you stand with Adventure League. But um, a couple of weeks ago, when actually probably even more than a couple of weeks ago, probably about 2 months ago, when when they released the player's handbook, and then they were talking about the DMG being released, and Wizards of the Coast through Adventures League was saying that we're not necessarily going to allow for any rules to be utilized in the for convention play until everything is released, which means that would push it to February when the monster manual is going to be released. And I had I had convention organizers saying to me that, well, I can't I can't schedule Adventure League because we don't know what rules format they want, and they're indicating, generally speaking, that we have to wait until the wait period after the monster manual is released, which was going to impact all of the early 2025 conventions, probably carrying them through. If it comes out in February, they might not clear for release any of that, information until like April or May or even later than that. And that takes out roughly at least 1/4 of the convention season, the convention year, off the table. And, I was sitting there and basically saying, well, then you don't open it up for Adventure League, don't schedule it at all. Basically
well,
say,
I think
we're just not going to
WOTC
do it.
it's totally blown this out of the water and made a stupid move myself. I They should have jumped all 3 books out at the same time, far as I was concerned. I mean, with computer technology and everything else available these days, this isn't 1975, 78,
Right,
and 78, 80, 81, or whatever they were for the original books, where they had to do actual layouts without computers and
right,
everything else. Nowadays it's cut, paste, boom. I mean, you can get a page done in 5 minutes, and it isn't like they're getting stuff. There isn't enough printing plants in China to get all that stuff printed up. You know what I mean? And have it delivered
right.
on time. You know, and if they would have thought about it, they could have dumped it all on the market on in November of this year or earlier to make the Christmas season. But I think what the WOTC does, and it's sort of like their employees laying off employees, they're just spacing it all out because say, okay, we're going to have it this quarter, we're going to have it this quarter, and we're going to do it this quarter so we can show our profits rising for the corporate wonks that we're making money here. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they also do the Merry Christmas, we're laying you all off sort of thing over there at
Right.
WOTC, because then they could go at the first of the year and go, hey, guess what? It didn't make it into this quarter, so we're going to be able to write this off, and we didn't,
Right.
we don't have to pay them for
Yeah.
Christmas, or we don't got to pay them this, and we ain't going to pay them that. It's just. WOTC is very money hungry. I'm going to just tell
Yeah.
you that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Mike, how's it going? You know, the thing is that I don't see their VTT being successful at all. I don't see that it's, I don't believe that it'll launch in 2025. Um, that's just not going to happen in 2025. I seriously doubt it. If it does, it's going to be a very soft launch. They'll call it, alpha and beta for the longest of time while they start trying to tweak it out and everything like that.
You know
I
what?
I have a lot of history with computer RPGs and MMOs in particular, and the idea of releasing something that is going to work uh, really well with multiple users on it at one time is not anything that is going to fall inside of a 5-year development series.
And here's my take
At
on that.
least that.
But bloody, here's my take on it.
Hmm.
They've got more money than Jesus. I think what they'll probably do is they'll come after somebody like Fantasy Grounds, and they will go buy up Fantasy Grounds, because Fantasy Grounds or one of those others will have a whole bunch of stuff already prepared. They've got people on the ground. They're already working on this stuff, and I think what they'll do is they'll drop in, they'll buy somebody like Fantasy Grounds, rebrand it, and call it WOTC Fantasy Grounds or something like that. I mean, that's how I see them
Yeah.
finally getting in there. I don't see them doing it, and this is with most corporations these days. I don't see them doing the legwork from the ground up. I just don't see it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah. They did hire like 300 programmers.
Right.
They do have 300 programmers or somewhere around that. Was when they got rid of most of their tabletop, people. Um, they hired at the same time a whole bunch of people that are computer programmers, and so I have no doubt that they have a very large staff working on it. But again, uh, AAA game companies take them, 5 to 10 years sometimes, to produce something that is that's going to run on the bandwidth that a massively multiplayer, online game experience. And VTT is going to have to be massively multiplayer. Not that you're going to have more than, 5, 6, 7 players on your particular server when you're doing it, but you're going to hopefully, in their view, have, you know, 10,000 different, 10,000 different games going at one time.
Mhm.
I mean, just look at the capacity that Roll 20 has. All right, and Roll 20 is a very, very simplistic system to utilize. There's no animation in it, or virtually no animation in it. They
Mhm.
can't they can't quite get their dynamic lighting working well.
Mhm.
It's it's still a very, very clunky system for what it's doing, and they're looking to make it more video game esque than they are just a VTT. It really is a video game that they're looking to produce, with just with movable miniatures that can be customized with all of those microtransactions and everything. But it is not something that is within their wheelhouse, number one. And number two, it's not something that you can throw together in 3 years.
Oh, I'm totally agree. That's why I said they're probably just gonna go off and buy somebody like Fantasy Grounds that's got all this stuff already pre-made, and then they can just slip in some microtransaction stuff and get that all working. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that Fantasy Grounds doesn't even have some of that going on right now on their end of things. I mean, we don't know. We're just two guys
Yeah.
sitting in our offices and talking about this nonsense. I mean, but I mean, WOTC I think has lost its way, and they want to become like Baldur's Gate, what the company that
Yeah.
made Baldur's Gate. You know what I mean? They saw Baldur's Gate and they made all this money, and now they're like, well, we're just going to go back to we're going to go do what they did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I see that going. You know what I
And
mean?
that's what Takata was bringing up here, that they recently came out and said that they plan to do their own video game. Well, their their own video game again, to have something that is rollout ready is going to be a 5 or 6 year, proposition that they don't quite frankly have, because Hasbro has given them a deadline of 2027 for D&D alone as a standalone to generate 1 billion a year. All right, excluding Magic the Gathering. They want D&D to create that. Now, do you know where Hasbro created over 2 billion in a single year off of a new product? And that is Monopoly Go. All right. Monopoly Go grossed over $2 billion in its first year. All right. And if they made a D&D Go, that's the only way that I can see them with a video game model being able to generate that kind of money that fast. All right.
Well, I just did a quick search here while we were talking. It took them 6 years to do Baldur's Gate. So I
Yes.
mean, come on.
Yeah, it's not anything that is easy for a for an experienced game company to
Mm-hmm.
video game company to produce. And we're talking about some of the largest, right? Blizzard can't put out a game in less than 6 years. Bethesda can't put out a game in less than 6 years. I mean, it's just not something that is possible for a company as tiny as Hasbro. And I know people say, "Oh, Hasbro can't be tiny. They're worth $10 billion or even thirty
But they've
billion
got so
dollars."
many divisions. They don't have. They
Yeah,
don't have.
yeah,
You know what I
they
mean?
don't have that number one. And even if you combine them all up, all right, at $10 billion, I mean, Tencent is that's part of Funcom, and or all of those other game developers are part of that. That's worth over $100 billion. You're talking about, Hasbro's tiny in comparison. All right, and they don't have anywhere near the budget, and they're losing money. All right, they are losing money off of their tabletop role playing division. They're losing money. They're getting sued now by their shareholders over um, over hiding their overstock of 5e books. It's like,
Oh yeah. Well, that's. I'll tell. I'm in trucking. I'm in transportation.
mhm,
I know how they do that all the time. I can tell you
mhm,
that. That's like, oh no, it's in transit, so they can count it as sold. But then when it gets there, it's not sold anymore, and it's
yeah,
over the period. It's over the period of the end of the quarter. So it's like, oh yeah, yeah, that's not in our inventory anymore. And they cook the books that way. They used to do that with food and stuff back in the 70s and 80s
yeah,
when I was trucking. So yeah, I know how that shell game works real well. At the end of the month or end of the quarter, it was like, hey, we've
yeah.
got 15 extra truckloads of turkeys that moved. Oh, okay, where are we moving it to?
Yeah,
Well,
I've worked for corporations where when they knew the fire inspector was coming, they would move the fire extinguishers from one building to another, trying
yeah.
to anticipate when they'll move from one building to the other, and just distribute the fire extinguishers a bit, because $100 million company couldn't afford to have 15 fire extinguishers in every single of the 5 buildings that they had. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right. It's just
and they
like
got caught. They did get busted doing that. But it's a shell game with them, and they got caught. But so I want to get right back to, with Adventure League. So you've basically said no to the offer to have Adventure League at DaveCon,
Right.
and I'm assuming that you've gotten some pushback over that.
Oh, I've been called everything, including a Nazi, over this. Back to the old Nazi saying, you know, I'm a registered Nazi or something. I'm just like, oh, really, Nazi? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah,
Not in my family, it doesn't work. You know, I mean, I got a grandfather that fought the Nazis for, you know, back in World War II, but it still doesn't work. I mean, I got a sister that's married to another woman, and I also got a nephew that's, you know, mixed race. You know, it's
yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah.
it just doesn't work around
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It's a eventually the name calling and the slander and the this and that. It just doesn't. It just doesn't carry over like it used to. And you know, and to say that, well, I'm not going to allow Adventure League, or um,
But
I'm not
but
going to cater
here's
to,
the thing.
you
Here's the
know,
thing, buddy. I didn't
yeah,
say 5e players couldn't come. I didn't say
yes,
WOTC
I was
players
going to make
couldn't come.
that point. You know,
I did, or employees couldn't come. I just said I will not sponsor or help WOTC Adventure League.
yeah.
That's it. I have my own Dungeons and Dragons tournament.
Mhm.
So I mean, I can expand it out. That's not a
Right.
problem. I can expand it out to include every 5e player that wants to come. It'd be almost like Adventure League.
Mm.
But guess what? I got a prize at the end. You get to come to DaveCon the next year if you win. If your table team wins, I mean, you get free
Right.
tickets for the next year. So I mean,
Yeah.
let's get real here, folks. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. No, it's
it's
a
WOTC Adventure League only. I didn't say
yeah.
you couldn't play the uh, whatever module for 5e that they put. You know, they got those
Right.
books. But you ain't got time to play those anyways. It's going to be one shot that these guys create and develop, and they want to test at a convention, and that's what most people do. You know,
Right.
they don't they don't they don't have, you know, I mean, these are little mini modules, or what,
Hmm.
6 to 12 pages long, possibly. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's you know, it's ridiculous. You know,
Yeah.
calling me a
Plus,
Nazi because I won't have
yeah.
WOTC Adventure League in there.
Plus, the Adventure League. From my understanding, because I was really looking into, well, I was reading their rules for Adventure League, and I was like, why would any game master want to run under those rules and stipulations? You have no freedom to create your own adventure, to run it. Your adventure has to conform to whatever they're doing. You have to run multiple sessions, in most cases, multiple sessions during the same 3-day weekend or whatever. So you have to have the same group of players coming to you maybe 2 or 3 times, and run a 3 segmented session there. So you're running 12 hours, let's say, of Adventure League with the same group of players. And then the next year, you know, you're supposed to provide the same thing, like a continuation for those characters in the next thing. And it's like, no, it's like that's going to create, you know, uh, as a game master, to go in and say, I'm going to run Adventure League. That has to be my whole convention experience,
Mm-hmm.
going into that. And you basically dedicate the entire convention to running 3 sessions and,
Well, that's another
oh,
thing. I'm going to have to set aside a complete ballroom that
yeah.
I've rented for
Hmm.
WOTC Adventure League play. 12 hours. That's from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And you got to add in time inside there for an hour between sessions so that they can go get their eats and everything else.
Hmm.
So now we're running it out to 14 hours. 14
Right.
hours. And most people don't want to start at 8 a.m. in the morning. They're going to start at 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning. So
Yeah.
you're basically eating a day. Who's paying for this space? Who's paying for this space? And you know what? I've been to Gary Con, I've been to Game Hall, I've been to other conventions. and it's eating too much space. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It doesn't allow guys like you, Bloodworth, or any of the other gentlemen that are in this thing to play Gamma World, Top Secret, Pathfinder, Mystic Days, Mythcraft, or any of the other games that they want to play. And
Right.
it's nonsense. You know what I mean? And here's the thing too about DaveCon. I want you to experience every possible game you can. I want
Yeah.
you to be able to say, all right, I'm not stuck at this table playing Dungeons and Dragons for 14 hours. I'm going to be able to go and play Mythcraft, Mystic Days, Top Secret, Gamma World, Traveler, whatever game you want to play. You know what I
Right.
mean? So you widen your experience in
Right.
the role playing games. You know what I mean? And that's something that's fundamental to me. That it says, open your eyes, go look at this stuff. If you're going to just drive down the same road every time, it gets really boring.
Yeah.
you know, that's what I want to see out of players. I want to see them open their eyes, open to possibilities of doing something new, be creative, and have a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just something fundamental in me. I mean, go play Braunstein with David Wesley. Never roll a die, but you'll be in there for 6 hours having a great time, talking to everybody.
Yeah.
Go play Dungeon with Dave McGarry. It's his 50th year. We're having a celebration at DaveCon this year
Yeah.
for Dave McGarry and his 50th year of Dungeon. Go play Dungeon. It's a board game. And then turn
Yeah.
around and play something.
I'm actually going to share a screen. I'm going to share the front page of davecon.net so that everyone can see who's
Right.
going to be there, and you can talk a little bit about those. Let me just get the other opening up on my screen here so that I can see, because once I share screen, I can't see
Mhm.
anything going on the screen at the same time. So let me just go
Hold on a
into.
second. Make sure it's updated right. Yep, everything's
Yeah,
updated.
yeah, everything was fine.
Okay.
Um, I'm just looking for my iPad to. There we go. All right, and
But
turn down my
that's the thing.
volume.
That's the thing about when you go to conventions. You should have a variety of games, and you
Hmm.
shouldn't spend money just to sit at one table for 14 hours. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You're supposed to get up and you're supposed to be able to socialize with other individuals, get new ideas, you know, collaborate and be inspired so that when you go back to your home game, if you're a dungeon master especially, you can bring these experiences to your game table and make your gaming experience at home that much better. You know what I mean?
yes,
It's fundamental. I mean, every
yeah,
time I go to a convention, I learn something new. You know what I mean? I've
mhm,
learned a technique or something from another dungeon master, and you know what? I integrate it into my game. If it works well, I keep it. If it doesn't, I toss it. But I got to try these things so that my game is fresh. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, I mean, I really hope that people realize that that's what a convention is for. It's not just
yeah,
for socialization, learning, and expanding your horizons and stuff like that. I mean, it's not just you're a drone sitting at a table for 14 hours. You know what I
right,
mean? People need to. I really hope that they understand that.
yeah. I'm going to share the screen so everyone can see, and I can follow along now.
All right.
So here we have it. So Dave Con, all right, isn't just about one Dave. It's about all the Daves that made RPG gaming great. 3 days of gaming, vendors, and art, plus the auction. And here's your list of special guests. You've mentioned some of them already. Dave McGarry,
Yep.
who is an original Blackmore player
Yep.
and inventor of the Dungeon board game.
50th
Um,
anniversary this year.
yes, you have David Wesley, the grandfather of role playing games, the creator of Braunstein.
Yep.
You have Mike Carr,
Yep.
again, another original Blackmore player, TSR alumni, and the creator of Don't Give Up the Ship and Dawn Patrol.
Oh,
I
X.
still don't
You know
have a
what?
copy of Don't Give Up the Ship. I have to try to find one that's reasonably priced. But
Right.
I do have Dawn Patrol.
Let me tell you what. If you're coming to DaveCon and you can't get into Dave McGarry or David Wesley's, you gotta get into Mike Carr's game. Mike is a consummate. I want to tell you, he is one of the best game masters I've ever seen. Very calm. He knows his games backwards and forwards, and it's just. I mean, like Professor Dungeon Master last year, he died in the first round of combat in the game, but he sat there for 5 hours and just listened to Mike Carr the entire time. You know, I mean, that's how good of a dungeon master he is. And it's just sort of like, you know, or game master, if you want to call him that. But I mean, for somebody like Professor Dungeon Master to, you know, sit there and you know, go through that for 5 hours, come on. You know what I mean? That's the professional right there.
Right. You know, and that was my experience with Frank Metzner in his game. He had 16 players in his game, 8 of us sitting at the table, and then 8 alternates behind us. And when players died, player characters died, I should say. When player characters died, they just switched places with the alternate, but they stayed. Yeah. They stayed for the entire 4 hours. You know, and just absorbed just the atmosphere of the game. So I'm assuming that like Dave McGarry is going to be playing Dungeon with.
Yep, we are. We've got a special.
We've got something special. Runs Braunstein.
Yep, we got something special for Dave. We've got David Wesley will be playing Saturday night, and he's going to have one session, possibly a second one on Sunday, a pickup session of Braunstein 4, but he's going to do the original Braunstein on Saturday night from 6 to 12 or something like that, or whenever it stops. I just gave him a ballroom, and I said, all right, David, you run it until your people drop. And he can put 30 people in that game, or 26 or something like that.
So I know David Wesley runs Braunstein. My car runs both Dawn Patrol and Don't Give Up the Ship, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And then William Hoyt, does he run Empire of the Petal Throne?
Yes, he does. He runs Empire of the Petal Thrones. He also runs a first campaign Blackmore game, so which is a real raucous fun. I mean, I haven't been able to sit in it because I'm the convention organizer, but someday I hope to. You know, Ross Maker, co-creator of Source of the Nile with David Wesley. Wonderful game. I've only played it once, but I'd like to play it definitely more.
All right.
Baron DeRup of Dungeon Masterpiece, he is this year co-creating with John Zierden the Dungeons and Dragons tournament module this year.
Nice.
So this should be something fun. David Johnson, he's a podcaster and a very nice guy. He runs a game called what's the name of it again? Randy Macho Man Savage. It's a 5e game. He runs it 2 or 3 times during the convention. He runs around in a get up and sort of a LARPing get up, dressed as Randy Macho Man Savage, handing out Slim Jims, and he runs that game, and that game gets loud. It is fun, 5e, you know, loud. So it's pretty good. It's used 5e rules and stuff. So that's a wonderful game if you guys want to get into it. Justin Alexander, fellow Minnesotan guy I play with once in a while up at David Wesley's. He's we got that how to be so you want to be a game master in the RPG, developer at Atlas Games. He's coming out with a new book, possibly by April, is what he's telling me, and that is about players, how to be a better player, not a better dungeon master, how to be a better player, and how to, you know, help yourself in a game. So, and we were talking at length about this a couple of weeks ago, and he was asking me some stuff that I do in my game. Bob the World Builder, everybody knows who he is. He does games. He wants to come out and experience the David Wesley and Dave McGarry and stuff like that. And so he's flying out to do that. Greg Gillespie, some of you know about him. He runs the Barrel Maze. He's got some other stuff that he's created. He'll be flying out to Minnesota. Mark Reinhagen, rare appearance by him at a convention. He is going to come in and he's going to do Vampire the Masquerade second edition. Nice. And he's going to run a couple games of that at DaveCon and sit in a bunch of, now, if you go back a little bit, a lot of those guys are going to be doing seminars about world development and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to sit in and talk to those guys on how they develop their worlds and campaigns and stuff like that. So that should be a very informative stuff. And
nice. And then you have Andy and Thomas.
Andy Thomas and Dave Yeager.
Yep.
Coming. I think they've been on your show, Bloodworth, have they not?
Yes, they have.
Yeah, great guys.
Yes.
The dishwasher and the busboy, I call them, because, well, they tried to stiff me on an alcohol bill one night, but I told them flat out, the next time they did it, they're going to be washing the dishes and doing the busboy and for the convention. So,
and their game, Mystic Games, is a very unique game.
Oh yeah,
totally different, rules mechanics than what you would see in like Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that. It really is a unique game system.
Yep. I've got their system here. I read through it every once in a while, and I grab some inspiration from it. It is a very unique system, and I recommend. They will be having a table at DaveCon. They've got a vendor booth with a table next to it where they're going to be running the game consistently. So if you have a chance, an hour or two between games, you can sit in a mini game at their table at DaveCon. Yeah, and run a game with them there, and then across the way is going to be the guys from Mythcraft, and you're going to be able to sit in on their table. They will have a table also where you'll be able to sit in and learn their system and see how their system works too. So it's a learning experience for anybody who wants to try something new. They can go and sit in on that stuff. So.
And then you have Ken Fletcher and Kevin McCall.
Yep. Ken Fletcher was the staff artist for Dave Arneson's adventure game company. And he's a huge sci-fi fan. He works at a local sci-fi bookstore here in town, the biggest one there is. And great guy, quiet. Really quiet guy, but he is so nice. He is one of the nicest guys you've ever meet. I mean, he's just quiet, and I can't speak highly enough about Ken. And Kevin, I play with every once in a while. Computer whiz kid for Dave Arneson, and he has a lot of Blackmore stuff, and he runs some small Dave Arneson birthday dinner here in Minnesota for Dave in October. I think it's October 1st, if I remember right, is Dave Arneson's birthday. So he runs that, and Kevin's a nice guy, and he's got a masterful display of everything Blackmore that he will be setting up at the convention. And if you really wanted to dig into Blackmore and learn that kind of stuff, I would recommend you to go see Kevin. And then I heard Griff Morgan's going to try to be there. And
nice. All right. Yeah, I was going to say Griff is another person that's been on my channel a number of times, and he's a great guy to chat with as well. And The Secrets of Blackmore is by far one of my favorite documentaries on gaming that I've come across.
Right. And then we're going to have the guys from 50 Years of Fantasy film being shown at the convention too. Blake DeRouche, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. It escapes me, but they're going to be showing their film and having a seminar with that too. I just haven't had the time to get everything wound up on the page here. So you're going to see a lot more things being filled in as guests confirm and stuff. And it's just, you can't.
And once again, everyone, it's going to be April 25th through the 27th. 2025, obviously, in Bloomington, Minnesota. So if you can get out there, you can see what, everything that's going on there, all of the special guests, and there's probably more, as well. But I'm going to stop sharing here and get us back to
Well, and also if you're flying out to
here.
Minnesota, if you go into any of the terminals,
Mhm.
it's a train ride to the hotel.
Yeah.
The hotel, the train, light
Mhm.
rail ends up 100 feet from the entrance to the hotel. So I mean,
Nice.
you don't even have to. You're not having to grab an Uber or anything like that. It's just like walk down to the light rail and it'll scoot you right to the hotel. So it's
You know,
it's pretty convenient. So
and bottom line, I mean, getting back to your point earlier, so you do have people that are running 5e there. So there's
right,
it's not like saying, oh, you can't play 5e here. It's just uh, see what you're giving up. If you were putting Adventure League in that, in that kind of a slot, because you wouldn't be able to experience all of those other, gaming experiences that you can certainly have. Um, and that's the downside to having something like organized play, taking over, like you said, an entire ballroom, and as a player, you're devoting all of that time to just one game, you know,
right.
just one group of people as well, because like I said, I've seen it where they do multiple sessions. Like they'll do session one on one day, session two, and session three. Now, sure, you can go and do other stuff in between, but you're devoting 12 hours to one group of players, one dungeon master and one game system.
Right.
And as someone who has run you know, who has run up to 5 game sessions and played in three over, a 2.5 day schedule. Once you start pushing like 32 hours of gaming, it becomes like, whoa, and just imagine if 12 of that was just with one system. I think that it's just too time consuming. So I can definitely see your point in saying, especially since they offered you, right? They offered and they said it's either a yes or a no,
Hmm.
so it's not like, it's not like it's a total rejection of it. You had the option and
Right.
you just chose no. So I don't
Well,
see why there's any real pushback over that.
right here,
Um,
I'm not going to eat up a ballroom for
yeah,
nothing. You know what I mean? Why
yeah,
why should I eat up a ballroom for nothing? I mean,
yeah,
all it does is promote WOTC, and well, frankly, if WOTC doesn't have the respect for the grognards or the founders of the game, and
right.
founders and developers, well, you know what? I don't need to hand them a way to make more money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's something that we've been saying, within the OSR for quite some time now. It's like, don't give people money that hate you. It's like don't reward them, for the fact that they really don't want us in this hobby anymore. They're like, this is not your game anymore. This is not your hobby anymore. Uh,
But
People that look like you can't leave fast enough. Even though Kyle
but
Grant.
they're not walking into the game stores that I'm walking into. I walk into the
Right.
game store.
Yeah.
My table, my 1E table, is more racially and sexually diverse than most of the 5E tables that I'm walking
Yeah.
in on. You know what I mean? It's like I
Yeah.
walk in there, it's like, well, that table's all all Caucasian. That table's all Caucasian.
Yeah.
It's like, um, what are you getting at here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's always been diverse. It's been as diverse as is possible considering your location. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you don't have a very diverse population, then your table's not going to be very diverse either. And you know, although there's always the exceptions. Like my first table, all right. My first dungeon master was a second generation uh Indian Hindu Indian. All right. My second game master, he was Jewish. We had a player that was Chinese. myself being mixed, between, Italian, Ukrainian, German and Irish. We had another player who was Puerto Rican, and I mean, this was our group. I mean, we were just every possible,
Here,
you
here's
know,
the thing.
that our town could offer, our small town on Long Island, New York could offer, and we already had three racial groups at the table. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's about as diverse as you could get. And that was our entire experience from 1978-ish, up until 1989, when we started going off to college, or just moved away or whatever. That was our gaming group.
Diversity makes a better gaming table.
Yeah,
Period. That's all I'm going to have to say about
yeah.
this.
And if
Diversity
we
makes a
could
better
have
gaming
had,
table.
yeah, if we could have had a female at the table, there was like, we were not, we were not the He-Man's Woman Haters Club, of the Little Rascals era. Would
Right.
have loved to have, girls playing at the table. They just
I've had
weren't
as many as
interested.
four women playing at my table at one time. But my group is 10 to 12 people playing all the time. So it's just like, oh well, I don't care. But you know what? Diversity makes a table better because they could think outside the box. They start think women think differently than men on how to do solutions, and
Mhm.
and if you're from a different culture, there's another way to think about how to come to a solution. Because that's how they were born and raised and everything else. They figure out a way to do different solutions. And to me, as a dungeon master, that makes my job that much better. I do not like to sit there and drone and go, no, you can't. No, you can't. That's
Yeah.
not going to happen. Well, a player comes up and says, can we do this?
Mhm.
You can give it a try, and
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, that was an inventive way to stymie me, I mean, which is a great thing. It's just they invented something to stymie me, and they did it this weekend to me, this last weekend. My players stymied a little trap I had set for them. They don't
Mhm.
know the trap, but another day, another dollar. I can use that trap for another, session that I'm dreaming of.
Right.
So I welcome the diversity. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I also welcome inclusion, and everybody in WOTC is not including the grognards all the way
Right.
up. You know what I mean?
No,
They should.
that's an absolute fact. Mike, I just wanted to point out that Troll Lord Games
Mm.
is looking to put out like an adventure league type of organized play, and I believe they're introducing, like, they had their own convention, right? Down in their home state of Arkansas, but they're bringing it to Philadelphia Area Game Expo in January. All right, so that is going to be someplace where they are doing some organized play there, and they're looking to branch out even more into other conventions and everything. So, there are other game companies that are
And,
looking to
and here's
uh,
the thing: any
follow
game
that kind
company,
of pattern.
buddy, I got
Yeah,
to say one thing: any game company out there that wants to throw a tournament at DaveCon is more
yeah,
than welcome to. Just call me and ask me. Just say,
yeah.
hey, a Mythic Days wants to put something on. Okay, how many tables are you going to need? I'm going to need 3 tables. Okay, fine. I'll find 3 tables at this time on this day, so you
Mhm.
guys can run a mini con, or mini
Yeah,
tournament or whatever.
yeah.
I am more than willing to help somebody like Troll Lord Games or
Mm.
DCC or whoever, and say, hey, but I'm not going to give you a whole ballroom. I'm going to tell you that right off. I'm going to just tell whoever right off. It's going to be maximum number of tables, and that's it. Because
Mhm.
I've got to run my others. I want to make sure that there is a definite, you know, people can do other things. You know what I mean? I want that variety in there, and that should be. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So I mean, bring it on. I mean, if you want to play something, drop me a note, drop me an
Right.
email. It's on the website. let me know, and I'll tell you if it's already scheduled or we can fit you in somewhere. I have no
Right.
problem whatsoever in doing something like that. And but WOTC, like I
Mm.
said, sucks up a ballroom and nobody gets paid. You know what I mean? Nobody gets anything out of it. And all they're the ones that reap the the benefits of it, and nobody else really, if you really think about it. So it was an easy decision. A no's a
Yeah.
no, you know, and everybody's welcome to play. So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Organic versus artificial. Exactly. We always had organic diversity.
mhm.
My gaming table is open to anyone. First come, first serve. Once you're seated, as long as you're there to play, you
I
know,
play I
you're
play every
welcome.
2 weeks here in
Yeah.
Minnesota, and I have a table at a local game store. If whoever sits down at the table, go ahead. We'll help you drop a player, and we'll let you play. It could be your first time. You could be a seasoned
Yep.
veteran. We don't care. You know what I mean? It's we'll help you get started in the game. It just we want to attract more people into the game than push them out. You know what I mean? That's the operative thing here. And a convention is a great place for people to test their feet at different games. Find other game masters in their area, and learn and go play at different games after the convention. I mean, this is something that needs to be done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, I don't know what this is about, but WizardCon stepping on his convention dates. There's overlapping convention dates. I mean, I just had this conversation with with Victor before we actually came on. I think that I'm I can't make it to DaveCon this year, because I was already committed to Rising Phoenix, which is the same weekend. You know, that April weekend is a pretty popular weekend for conventions. So you're going to have multiple conventions happening at the same time.
It doesn't.
Um,
It doesn't. VGAPMI can go away. I
yeah.
know who that is. And
Oh,
as
okay.
for as for as for Don Zamora and his Wizard Con, he was originally scheduled the weekend before mine, but then they found out it was Easter weekend and he had to switch it. He couldn't
Yeah.
go before, so he had to go after. And Don has already said that he's sorry for doing it, and he's next year he's plans on that at his next convention plans on doing it the weekend after mine.
Right.
So I mean,
And Don was on
it
earlier
happens.
too,
It
here. Yeah,
happens.
Don was here earlier, so I'm
Yeah.
sure it does happen. It's like, I'll get the same thing about, hey, why are you doing an 8 o'clock time slot for a live stream? Because other people every freaking weekend, every day of the week is taken up with a live stream at 8 p.m. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? It's like it's when I normally don't do live streams on other days other than like Thursday and the occasional Sunday. So these are my 2 days for live streams, and it just is what it is. I can't help the fact that there's 15 other people doing a live stream at the same time. Especially when they do, when some of these people do, and I follow them. I watch their live streams too, but they do 6 a week. It's like, well, I can't help it, but just do a live stream when I can, and when I think it's timely, and when I think that there's a subject that I want to bring up, and and so that's just the way it is. Is that it's just a timing issue. That's most convenient, yes, for me, and for my guests when they can come
Right.
on and they
Well,
want to
some of us
talk
have
and
regular
everything.
jobs. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, it's like, so I came off. We had Thanksgiving, and then I had a wedding on Friday, and I didn't get home until you know uh, early afternoon on Saturday. And
right. I had
Victor and
Thanksgiving
I
on
went back and forth. It
Thursday.
was like,
I
hey,
had
what
I
time
had
would
stuff to
be?
do on Friday and
Yeah,
Saturday. On Saturday I'm doing my gaming sessions. So
right.
I'm hey,
And
this is the time.
even on today, it was like, hey, would 1 o'clock be good? And I was like, well, I think I might be out shopping, at 1 o'clock. Meanwhile, I was redoing a mailbox that the the first snow of the season, and the plow took out my mailbox. So it was messing around with that fiasco,
Right.
So we ended up being, hey, how's 7 Central, 8 p.m. And Victor was like, great, thumbs up, and there we are.
Right.
So
Well,
these things
we got a question here
sometimes
on the
happen.
thing. It says, what's the difference between a standard badge and a VIG badges? VIG badges you get 2 weeks ahead of time to get whichever games you want. You
Mhm.
also get a swag bag. Usually every year it will happen this year. We have the original art for DaveCon. It will be signed by the artists. In the last 2 years, we've had it signed by Jeff Easley and who was it? I can't remember. Clyde Caldwell. He
Oh,
signed limited edition things. They're limited to 100 of them, and those go
nice.
to the So it's one of a kind stuff. You get to put it on your wall at home. People are still buying them. I just sold one last weekend to a guy that wanted a signed limited edition Clyde Caldwell. So I mean,
Mm,
that's one of the things. We give modules, we give dice, we give
mm.
DM chips, we've got dice bags, we got all kinds of things we throw inside these swag bags, just like at GaryCon. You go to GaryCon and you get the gold badge and you get a swag bag full of stuff that you get to go home with. You know what I mean? And you get the first selection of games, so you can sit in McGarry's game, or you can sit in uh,
Mhm.
like David Wesley's game, or whatever games you want. You got 2 weeks to decide which games you want to be in, and then the
Right,
standard badge holders get to come in and pick their
right.
games after that. So I mean, it's the same thing. Dave Con does it, or not Dave Con, but Gary Con does it, and some of the other conventions all do it.
Oh,
It's
everybody
just
does that. Everybody
yeah,
does early signing. Yeah, no, everybody does that. You know, and once in a while you'll see like they'll get a new special guest, and he or she happens to be running a game. It's like, all right, I got to change my schedule up because I really want to sit in on that person's game. You know
right.
what I'm
And
saying?
the
So
thing the thing is everybody's got to remember this. I try to bring it out as late as possible.
yeah,
March, April, when I get enough tables already filled in, that's when I send out an email saying, get ready, because I'm going to turn this open in 2 weeks for everybody to get into the games they want. And then 2 weeks after that, the other people get to jump in there too. But I've got to make sure my guests are going to be in. I got to make sure
right,
airlines are flying. I got to make sure, we're not having a pandemic or, I mean, there's all kinds of things there that can screw up the schedule. And sometimes games overlap, or one of the special guests will say, hey, I want to really be in David Wesley's game. Can I move my game from 8 o'clock on Saturday night to 8 o'clock on Saturday morning? And so then I got to back up, and I got to, there's a lot behind the scenes a convention organizer has to do. They have to back up the schedule, and then they have to reorganize everything
mm,
so that stuff is going on. And then I've got to contact players, and say, hey, your game's being rescheduled. So that's why I try not to do it till as late as possible, so that everybody knows what's going on. You know what I mean?
mm,
I mean, guests will still. I've had guests show up at DaveCon the day of. The
right,
day of. I didn't even know they were coming, and they
mm,
walk in the door and they say, "I want to play games."
yeah,
Who am I going to tell somebody like David Wesley or
mm,
Dave McGarry or
yeah.
Mike Carr or any of these guys? No,
No,
you know what I
right,
mean. That would
exactly.
be that'd be like um I don't know. Let's say by chance somebody like Luke Gygax or somebody like that came walking in. Hey, I was flying through Minneapolis. I'm laid over for a day. Can I come play games? I'm going to say no. I mean, you know what I mean? Or somebody like that. Or Rob Kuntz. Let's say Rob Kuntz just flies in,
Mm,
spur of the moment. I'm going to say no to somebody like Rob Kuntz.
right.
Really?
I get it. Yeah, yeah. You can't. Let's see. I just want to give a shout out to Curious. Hey, how's it going? Thank you for the membership, and your gifted membership went to PS Cagdad. Hey, how's it going? As a matter of fact, let me do my first 5 of the month free memberships out there while we have it here. So let me jump here and jump here and membership gifting, gift 5 now. And so these will come up. So let's see. Fernando, Thatius, hey, how's it going? Coco B, Brian Rocher, and Jeff, you all have just received a free membership on my channel. All of those that have memberships on the channel right now, whether you're free or gifted from a curious, you can go to my Discord channel and you can you'll get a special role for membership, even if it's a temporary one, and that will open you up to sit in on any of my games. Or, I am looking to start a new campaign for a basic fantasy campaign coming up sometime either this month, December, or certainly by January. I'm looking to start that campaign. That might be a Thursday evening campaign. There goes my live streaming on Thursdays. But that'll be a Thursday evening campaign I think I'm looking to do, and that will probably be bi-weekly too. So it'll be a little bit less impactful than playing every single week. But certainly looking forward to that. And that's a campaign that I'm looking to run for at least several months, which is kind of my average now. My average campaigns run darn close to a year or longer in some cases. So, yeah, that would be a long-term uh, opportunity for you to play in my game. So anyway, sorry, Victor, just
Oh, it's okay.
doing some house cleaning and some standard stuff there.
Yeah.
So once again, let's see what else I was going to announce. So I don't know if you saw this, Victor, or not, but kind of spawning out of all of this, um, we have these various challenges on X where people are saying, "Hey, let's start reading some of the old materials and everything." So I am going to start tomorrow with doing a read through of the concepts and the main game mechanics. Not the game mechanics in detail, but the concepts of what made the game what it is.
Yeah. Well, can I
And
just
so I'm going to be doing that with this series, obviously. So I'm going to start with original Dungeons and Dragons, going to go through all 3 of the volumes from the white box, and then the 4 supplementals plus chainmail. Now, like I said, I'm not going to go into the full rules mechanics of it. I am going to go into the key concepts and and doing a straight right from the book reading. So you're hearing it as it was written, and I'll add some commentary as I'm going through it as well. But I'll be doing a video or 2 on each of the books. I don't know how long it'll actually take me to go through them all, but you will get from start to finish the entire reading. And then some of the challenges taking place are doing the same thing with AD&D First Edition, starting with the monster manual, and then reading through the player's handbook, and then reading through the Dungeon Master's Guide, because that's the order in which they were released. And I will move on to doing that as well. Once again, just focusing on the key concepts and the key concepts and other really important game mechanics that are meant to really drive the way that you play the game. And that way, I think that newer people out there that are new to the hobby, that have never played any of these old school games and game systems, will be able to see, hey, that's not what that's not what I heard. That's not what I expect. That's not what and see what it was, as it was truly written, without the nonsense disclaimers and all of that other stuff attached to it.
Let's remember something. Everybody out there, let's just remember one thing. This is fantasy or sci-fi or period historic. We're dealing with things like slavery and other nefarious acts that were commonplace back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was.
Yeah.
This is history. You know what I mean? History. You cannot erase history and not learn from. You learn from history. I mean, we learn from it. So I mean, let's not erase this stuff. It's not. If we keep erasing our history, that we're going to get to that point someday. 3 days ago, what did you eat? No, it doesn't care. I mean, I'm going to eat this tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean?
No, it's a, it's there's, they keep on coming back to it, like, and saying, like, those that are saying, well, you can't have inherently evil races and everything. That's a game mechanic. All right.
Yeah.
There's a purpose behind that. It's a gaming purpose behind that. It's not a, it's not a societal commentary that's being made there. It's a, this is a guilt-free, 5 experience points for you to eliminate kind of issue.
Let's go back a little bit here. We don't know what society is going to be like in 100 years or 1,000 years. We do know what society was like 100 and 1,000 years, but we don't know. The further we go back, the less we know. Everybody knows that. It's called the sands of time. You know what I mean? It's just we need to stop and think about that before we make a judgment about the guys who wrote this stuff in the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. They had more information at their hands. And guess what? They didn't use Google to read something somebody opined about. They went to a peer-reviewed, a lot of the time it was peer-reviewed books, like at the University of Minnesota Library, and they're pulling out manuscripts from the 1700s, and they're reading them going, oh my God, this king did what to these people? You know what I mean? It's just, this is, and kids these days, they go on the computer and go, was there slavery in the book? You know what? Go to the library, get a book, read a book. This is what they did back in the day. Deities and Demigods that Jim Ward wrote and stuff like that. They went to the library. They sat in the library and perused these ancient texts, stuff like that. It's how do you think we got this stuff? You guys don't get it into 5e now. You don't. You don't get these things in this, but we did, and we read through them. I mean, we're sitting at 14-year-old boys, and we're reading about Krishna and Thor and all this stuff.
I know there was a criticism that they just mentioned, like someone mentioned, it was like, oh well, or maybe another YouTube channel mentioned, it was like, well, you statted out the Hindu deities as if that that makes it where you can destroy these Hindu deities, and I'm like, number one, it's just because they put hit points, and maybe they shouldn't have. I mean, I'll acknowledge that. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to put hit points on it, but they're still not meant to be fought by regular people. It's like,
and another thing is, I don't know,
not meant to be fought by your adventure party. Just because they gave them hit points doesn't mean
in my campaign, you could kill a deity. Fine, kill a deity, but guess what? They go back to the plane that they
correct,
rule, and they're coming back for you. They might come back 100 times on you.
But it's you like die, So I'll go back to the original, right? So the first one here, and let's see what they put in. So this is by Robert Kuntz and James Ward. As always, James Ward, rest in peace. And let's see.
I got my
Yeah.
144 page right here.
Yeah, yeah, you have that one there. I have that behind me too. But we have let's see what so they have the Egyptian deities, which what makes Egyptian deities mythology and Hindu deities not? I don't know. Is it a couple 100 year difference that makes it, or whatnot? I mean, it's one culture's deities or another culture's mythology,
Right.
and so it becomes it becomes an issue. But they put these things, so they give them all hit points, right? Whether it's 290, I'm looking at Shiva right now, has 290 hit points. Vishnu has 250 hit points. Um, it's a but they're going to have innate abilities that you couldn't possibly deal any kind of damage to them anyway. And so the hit points, it was probably unnecessary to have it. Have it. Um, Here's a weaker. So yakshas are weaker demons of India with just 50 hit points. That's not a whole lot of hit points. Um, and they're not really that powerful in comparison to anything else. But it's it's something that did they gamify them? Yes. Does that mean that they're supposed to be like a player character party could kill them? No, of course not. It's
You know
never
what?
been devised to be that.
I've always played it as they were vanquished from the plane temporarily.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Boom, they're gone. But they'll be back. And now that you pissed them off, guess what? They're going to come back and they're going to send their armies after you, or their priests after you, or this and that. And so it adds flavor to my game. My players know not to even attempt to. If a god pulls up and they decide, it doesn't do anything to them, hey, back off, leave it alone, walk away. They don't need that. So I mean, it is what it is. But let's sands of time don't erase what we already know, and it adds flavor to the game. And these are fantasy worlds, sci-fi fantasy, fantasy worlds. It's these are worlds that have that are spring from the imagination. You know what I mean? And I wish people would remember that. I mean, that's what we dealt with in the 70s and 80s when we started playing the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't have cable TV. We could go flip on the TV and go, oh, look. I mean, I had 4 channels growing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lawrence Welk every Saturday night, Friday and Saturday night. You throw that channel out.
Right. So, yeah. So, again, we're getting back to the the same old arguments that we keep on cycling through. There's cultural appropriation. There's inherent evil, is wrong. There's slavery in the old books, and the although you were never meant to side with them. I mean, look at the slave lord modules. You were set up to be to be the liberators in those cases. It's like, there's not a single advanced Dungeons and Dragons module or Dungeons and Dragons module where slavers weren't the bad guys.
Right. But my mom back in the day, when Satanic Panic came out, one of the first questions she asked for is, can I read your books? I said, sure, Mom. I handed her my books. She bought me my books. She went upstairs. She read the books. She gave them back to me the next day. And she says, do you play evil or good characters? I said, Mom, we always play good characters. We're always liberating stuff from evil dragons, demons, and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, we're killing that stuff. And she goes, okay, hands me my books back, walks away. And that was the end of the question. My mom, gave me that stuff to say, hey, here you go for Christmas or your birthday. Hey, new stuff. And she knew it was more for good. I even tried being in an evil campaign once. It wasn't that as much fun as being a good guy. So, I mean, some guys get like that stuff, not me. You know what I mean?
Won't someone think of the slavers?
Yeah, Rob, when they're dead.
Yeah. Slavers' lives matter too, I guess. It's you have to just ignore the ignorance of WOTC and Hasbro. AD&D was a fantastic game to play in the late 70s. I still have my original books purchased by my mom and dad. Yes. I mean, and that's why I want to do this read through. And I'm going to start doing this read through. And to get back to a question from Curry Scott, yes, I am going to get back to Acts 2. Probably sometime later on this week. So I will make a return. I've been trying to cycle things through on the channel so that you're not getting, 3 or 4 videos back to back on the same subject. I have, a lot of games to cover behind me and new stuff coming in, every once in a while. And so I'm trying to kind of juggle all of these different interests that I have and still respond to your and subscribers requests and everything asking me to, hey,
Like
the mothership again or something along those lines as well.
I want to answer Brewster on here. He asked a question about Elon Musk, and I think you just need to go back in the video here to somewhere about 15 minutes in, and me and Bloodworth discussed the Elon Musk idea of him buying Dungeons and Dragons, and we discussed it at length for about 5-6 minutes and how if he was going to do it, he could do it, and if he would do it, So if you want to know that answer, go back.
Yeah, if it's so you're a new DM here, I don't know much about the history, but I saw Elon Hasbro stuff. Do you think it's a good idea if he buys it? I think that number one, I'll be perfectly honest. I don't like the direction that that Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro is taking Dungeons and Dragons, and that's been for quite a number of years now. I don't think that what they currently have is even remotely D&D in my mind. I think that the play style that it encourages is strictly a video game kind of play style that it encourages. You have your min-maxing, you have your power gaming, you have your action economy that is too multi-layered. You have too many fail safes for player character death, which I think is a really important aspect to have in the game because I don't believe that you can be truly heroic if there is no risk. And these are designed to be heroic fantasies. And heroic also has the connotation, and it gets back to what Vic and others have been mentioning as well. Heroic also has the good that's attached to it. There's no such thing as
we also
heroic
got one
evil.
other thing we need to
there might be courageous evil, but you don't have heroic evil. And Gary always said actually. Because Gary and I mentioned, like someone mentioned, evil campaigns tend to fall apart quickly, and that's something that Gary Gygax actually said. Because back during the Satanic Panic, Gary had come out, and I don't know exactly where he made this statement. It might have been in a Dragon magazine, or it might have been elsewhere. But he basically said the game is designed for you to play heroic, fantastic characters. And the heroic included that you're the good guys. And the game is really set up for you to be the good guys. And any of the evil that was in the world was meant for you to eradicate it. It was meant to, as they say, nits make lice, kind of thing, the paladin in hell kind of scenario. And, which is also a redemption arc as well. And, so all of these things were kind of baked into the game system. Now, Gary did say, yes, you can play an evil campaign, but it's going to fall apart very quickly. All right. And the reason why is that number one, you're more likely to have infighting within the group and you'll end up with PvP and they'll start conspiring against each other because they're evil characters. Secondly, they're going to generate a lot of consequences for their actions. And those consequences are going to start coming to them from all different sides. And so it's not going to be a very long lasting campaign. At least that's what was in Gary Gygax's, mind when he was thinking about that issue. And again, he reiterated it's cooked in the books that you're to be playing a heroic fantasy character. So you're looking to save the world. Go ahead, Victor.
All right. Number one, if you're evil, life is cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning your character might screw up once and another character might kill you in the
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? You might be dead quickly. Number two is with WOTC and digital, life is you're going to keep coming back. They're going to let you keep coming back as a digital character. You know what I mean? Your character is going to go on and on. Life is not cheap in that thing. And what it should happen is if your character dies, there should be a mechanism where you can get raised, but it's going to cost you a whole bunch of digital credit or digital gold coins to come back. You know what I mean? And they're not going to do that. Right. I can guarantee you they're not going to do that. It'll be like, boom, you're back to Greyhawk, and now you're walking down the street again, and you got to run all the way back to the fighting adventure you're doing. You know what I mean? It's. I don't see how they can compact the Dungeon Master Guide, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook, make all those rules into something, and keep out a character death without the character dying. I mean, it's forever. It's gone. You know what I mean? And then you're either that, or you've left enough money with the local priests to bring yourself back. I mean, it won't work. You know what I mean? I mean, they're going to have a hard time with players dying like that, and because they're used to auto regenerating or whatever you call that. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, there is no character death in something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that's
and in a good campaign, life is valuable. You learn that, oh, no, I'm not going to go walk into that room with 3 frost giants and I'm a first level character. I'm going to run my butt off and get away from this. I mean, it's just something that, I will throw myself off a cliff 50 feet into the water rather than fighting 3 giants. You know what I mean? It's just something that, I'm sorry. It's just, I don't see how they can do it. I don't see how they can, you know what I mean? That programming is going to be quite intricate, and trying to figure that out is, you know what I'm saying? So.
Sensei Dave says, S.A. Dave, I felt compelled to come here. Are we hyped about Dave? Yeah, we're hyped about most of the Daves that we know, or have heard of. Yes. Right. So yes, all of the Daves of early role playing and early tabletop role playing, or Dungeons and Dragons in particular. Yes, those are the Daves we could be hyped about, right. And we can be hyped about Dave sitting here, who is bringing us a convention. Celebrating Daves, all 4 of them. I believe there were 4 Daves, and
was it 3 Daves? Metzger, Wesley, and oh God, there was another one. There's a Dave Sorensen, I think there was in the Whiteboard group. And I got so many names. I got a Rolodex of names in my head, and I'm just trying to figure them all out here. But yes, DaveCon is about all the Daves that made great Dave. And you know what? You could be named Gary and you're still a Dave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Actually, I think it was 3 Daves, and was it 3 Daves, a Rob, Gary, and then a few others. But it was 3 Daves. Yeah, Brian. Yeah. It was 3 Daves. and then some others. I mean, there's so many that are mentioned um, early on, and and others that like Dave Wesley is not mentioned in any of the D&D stuff because he had his own thing, and he did not uh,
Okay, quick history.
come along
David
into.
Wesley invented Braunstein, brought it to David Arnson's house. David
Yeah,
Arnson looked at it and said, "Hey, what if we added some role playing and some dice to this?" And then he brought it to Gary Gygax, and Gary
correct.
Gygax
Yes.
saw it and said, "Hey, we can
Yeah.
we can put numbers to this because Dave was an actuary. Hence, you have Dungeons and Dragons. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Because
It's like one
he combined elements of miniature
one
wargaming.
conceptualized it,
Yeah,
one gamified it, and
right,
one marketed it,
right,
and that's basically where you kind of have it. And then there were the ones that financed it, and then those that contributed to the earlier portion of it.
right.
So um, the Dave that shall not be named. I
David
want to know
Sutherland.
which Dave is that.
David
So
Sutherland was the artist. We all know that. So,
yeah. So I'm not sure which the Dave that shall not be named is.
I
Uh,
don't.
David
Uh,
Koresh. David Koresh is the only one that just came right to my mind. Uh,
I was thinking
so
more Collins or Thulu.
yeah. Um,
Anyways, I need to buzz out of here. I need to
yeah.
get
So
something to eat, and I hope everybody comes to DaveCon. I've explained it over and
yeah.
over and over again. I just don't want to eat up my convention space with WOTC and with the latest nonsense with
Mhm.
David Tundro and the others before it. They're not respecting the gamers like Rob Koontz, David Wesley, David Arnson, and Gary Gygax. I I you know what? It was an easy choice. It was given a
Yeah.
yes or no to have WOTC, and I said no. So I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
No, I could definitely see. I mean, and we've been saying it for quite some time. Is like, don't give money to companies that don't appreciate you or hate you, or they don't respect you. And this goes all the way back to when they first put the disclaimers
mhm.
on the things on Drive Through RPG, and I've been railing against it ever since then. And just looking at all of their just continuous missteps, and the fact that people will still kind of run interference for Wizards of the Coast and try to create that separation between, the creators at Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. I don't make that differentiation anymore, because they could speak out. I mean, the chances are, like after the mass firing that they had back last December, some could have, definitely stepped up and said, "Hey, you know what? This is not the atmosphere, the working atmosphere that I want to, be associated with." You don't see, any of that. You just see them worrying more about their own personal money, which I guess is, it's an understandable thing, in one degree, um, but that's just what it is. And I do not agree with this. I don't see why you would. If he does buy either the IP or just 51%, a controlling interest of Hasbro, or Hasbro outright, um, I can see many positives behind it. So, um, I don't see a positive for Dungeons and Dragons moving forward under Wizards of the Coast's current trajectory, with the game, with whatever. So I'm going to leave my point at that. Anybody but them, possibly. I mean, there's only one person that I wouldn't want to see it go to, and that would be like a Justin Lanassa kind of person. But anybody but Wizards of the Coast, with that one exception, I think we'll probably take the game into a better place than where it is trajectory right now. So, Vic, hey, thanks a lot. I'm going to let you run.
All right.
Thanks for stopping in, and I will certainly be looking at hopefully 2026. I can,
All right.
you
Well,
know,
everybody's invited. Everybody's welcome.
yeah,
You know, and I hope to see everybody at the convention or a convention near me or Gary Con or one of the others that
yeah.
I'll be attending, and hope to see you then. Bloodworth,
Yeah.
good talking with you, and we'll have another
Good
chat
talking
another
to you
time.
too. All right, you have
All
a
right.
good one.
Yep.
All right,
Bye-bye.
everyone, thanks for joining. I am going to go to the end screen here, and as always, remember you can scan the little scan up there, or just join the channel directly through YouTube. Uh, Also, you can find Unscripted and Unchained RPG on Twitter, since that's come up quite a number of times as well. And so you're welcome to do that as well and follow there. And looking forward to seeing you on a gaming screen or at a convention sometime soon. My next convention is in January. So that's at the Philadelphia Area Game Expo, where I've been invited as a special guest. So, really honored to go over there. And I'm running 3 games while I'm there, 3 or possibly 4. I'm going to double check and see how much my schedule is filled up. But and that's mostly running Shadow Dark and one game, Gangbusters game session as well. So look forward to seeing you there in person, and you will have a great upcoming week. And it's already December, so in a couple of weeks, some of us will be celebrating various holidays, and if not, we'll still enjoy any kind of breaks that you get along